All right. For the past year or so, before that as well, I think, but it really took shape about 9 months ago, I'd say, YouTube, aka Google, has been waging a war against third party ad blocking software because they view it to be against their terms of service and believe that by getting rid of third party ad blocking extensions, they can subsequently increase their relative advertising revenue for the entire platform. That's technically true, I think. I would argue it's a fairly minimal increase, most likely, owing to the fact that most viewers watch YouTube on mobile devices already, and mobile devices typically don't have ad blocking software installed on them intrinsically. They would mostly be targeting a desktop viewer demographic with this policy, but whatever the thought process might be, they're doing it, and they're getting increasingly aggressive about it in the process. The most recent statement that they made was in mid-April of 2024, which said, quote, "We're strengthening our enforcement on third-party apps that violate YouTube's terms of service, specifically ad blocking apps. Viewers who are using these third-party apps may experience buffering issues or see the error, 'The following content is not available on this app,' when trying to watch a video. We want to emphasize that our terms don't allow third-party apps to turn off ads because that prevents the creator from being rewarded for viewership, and ads on YouTube help support creators and let billions of people around the world use the streaming service. We also understand that some people prefer an entirely ad-free experience, which is why we offer YouTube Premium." End quote. Yeah, it's pretty self-evident what they're doing right now, and that is overload people with ads until they pay a monthly fee to get rid of them, which amounts to more money for YouTube long term than if they kept serving the ads themselves, which is, I guess, understandable to be honest. It's actually way better for creators as well because YouTube Premium pays out at a higher rate than typical advertising when a viewer subscribes and spends a lot of time watching your content. But regardless of all that, YouTube is cracking down on ad blockers in particular as hard as they possibly can, which is the starting point for this video. Funny side note, the comments on this YouTube post are disabled except for like 15 copy pasted little replies that say, "Thanks, YouTube," which is funny because no one's actually thanking them for this. Pretty sure they got immediately roasted, so they disabled all comments and then deleted everything that wasn't like super nice to them. But anyway, that's beside the point. See, advertising in general is a load bearing pillar of YouTube and Google's entire business model. But that's where we start running into problems because they're going down this road, the road of forcefully disabling all ad blockers if possible, to the direct detriment of their own audience. And there's overwhelming evidence to support that, which is only ever increasing by the day. Here's what I'm talking about. Even as far back as 2 years ago, the FBI was specifically telling people use ad blockers when you browse Google. Why? Because cybercriminals were using Google's own advertising pipeline to infect customers with malware, which is still happening, by the way, and it's very easy to showcase how. Like I said, Google is all about the advertising, which is fine. I get it. They're a business. But when you run a Google search, a search without third party ad blocking software, the very first results that you get typically are sponsored. Here's an example. If I search best volleyballs with no ad blocking software enabled, the first thing I get is a feed of products that were put there by the ad serving mechanisms. If I run the same search with ad blocker enabled this time, I don't. Easy to see, right? Well, if we switch over and run this search for, say, TurboTax, the same thing happens, but TurboTax is actually a piece of software, not a physical product, and this is where things get bad because threat actors and cybercriminals were using programs like this and many others, while impersonating the websites, to disperse malware right into the top result of Google through their own advertising portal. There's great research about this from a company called Guardio, but I'll mention them again soon for a different reason. Now, some of you may be thinking, but what does that have to do with YouTube? Google search and YouTube video browsing are quite obviously very different from each other, so why talk about one as if it's comparable to the other? And you're right, but see, there is a problem on YouTube as well, similar to Google, where the intrinsic advertising tools of the actual platform are being abused more and more, while lethargic moderation, that's probably the best way to describe it here, or at least the most charitable way to describe it, favoring YouTube, fails to keep up with it in the background. I've talked about all this before, well, at least some of it, but the problem is growing exponentially larger now because whatever scam ring is behind it all has either expanded their operations or inspired copycats at the very least. And the techniques they use are starting to become a measurable portion of the entire ad pool. This one right here is a perfect starting point because I've talked about how this one in particular has actually jumped over to Twitter and gets increasingly used there now as well. But the ad itself is a deepfaked version of Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple. And it's still there, mind you, after being reported to YouTube dozens and dozens of times. Here's the part where things get, I guess, complicated. These ads are multiplying. Credit to Begin Linux Guru for compiling a bunch of these, by the way. I'll link his channel down below. There are deep-faked scam ads of Elon Musk, obviously, that's a much older one. But now we're seeing examples of Vitalik Buterin, founder of Ethereum, Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, Anatoly Yakovenko, CEO of Solana, Michael Saylor, billionaire founder of MicroStrategy, Kathy Wood, CEO of ARK Invest, and more of them, a lot more, that I'm just not personally aware of at the moment. Again, I've talked about all this before, but if Google is deciding to wage war on ad blockers, I think it's only logical that they then be held to a decently high standard for their own advertising portal. Because if you disable ad blocking extensions, you are forcing people to watch more of your ads, which means you need to be diligent about making sure those ads are safe. Yeah, Google's not properly doing that. A lot of these deepfake ads are hosted as unlisted videos on YouTube itself, and they've specifically been reported because they're scams. However, Google took no action. But going even further, because I've talked about that before, if you trace one of them backwards, and this part I have not done before, to the originating Google AdSense account, it starts to become clear just how pervasive the problem really is. This is a verified Google AdSense account for one Mohammed Mahmoud Ali, which ran at least a portion of the deepfake advertisements in 2024. But brace yourself, because this account is running at least 20,000 scam ads globally. Some of these come back as phishing links from places like VirusTotal. Some of them are very likely malware, and a huge number of them are just flat out financial scams. If we narrow it down to the United States, which is a very common target for the crypto deepfake ads in particular, and then restrict also to just video ads, we can see some of the scams are still running as well. But we also find a decent number of blank ones where the image can't be displayed. These campaigns have names like drops are now live, new announcement, important community update, or events are live today, which are the exact same names compared to the crypto scam iterations that we've been seeing plague YouTube for literal years. Well, going a little bit further, if you track down those and go to the actual URL of the hosted video that was used for the advertisement initially, you find something rather curious. These videos were not suspended by Google. They weren't terminated for violating community policies or struck down after being reported. They were removed by the uploader in most cases, which means that the account running the ads, or whatever proxy account it was that they used to host the ad in the first place on YouTube, possibly a larger compromised channel, which is how a separate dimension of the scam operates, took the ad down on purpose for their own reasons. Think it through. Google is now waging war on ad blockers, while accounts like this one, verified accounts from Pakistan, are running 20,000 scams globally through their advertising portal, with no action taken against them. Even when you report the ads for what they are, still no action gets taken. Not to sound hyperbolic here, but this means that YouTube and Google are attempting to force everyone into watching more ads while failing to take action against bad actors in their own advertising community, meaning they are directly obligating you to watch things that may deceptively try to trick you, rob you, or steal your information. That's a problem. Now, I did say earlier I would mention Guardio again, and this is the part where I do that. Let's say Google were to be successful, or at least mildly successful, in their effort to eliminate third-party ad blocking software. It's never quite that simple, but they could certainly make it far more difficult to use at the very least. What then? Well, Guardio is a Chrome extension that doesn't block ads, but rather protects you from malicious links, and so far, in my research at least, it has a nearly perfect track record of blocking these particular scams. So yeah, I have a special discount partnership with them, so I'll put the link down below for anyone interested. If you're the type of person who just browses the internet with a naked Chrome browser, which is really, really ill-advised, don't do that. I very much recommend something like Guardio to protect you. Bottom line, YouTube's misguided war on third-party ad blockers might be understandable from a profit perspective, if we're exclusively thinking about it from that angle, but they are failing abysmally right now when it comes to protecting the community from bad actors utilizing their own advertising tools. And that complicates things when you are effectively trying to force everyone to watch more ads. You have to clean up the thing you're making people see. That's really just common sense. Hopefully they start moderating better, at least partially, because a verified account with that long of a history, running that many ads at the same time, that's not something that just fell through the cracks. That's a big fish swimming freely as a result of inadequate community guideline enforcement by YouTube. If I slip up and I put 3 seconds of improper footage in a video, I get demonetized immediately. But some dude from Pakistan can run 20,000 scam ads, and that's just fine with them. Something's definitely wrong there. That's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. We have a VPN deal, a deal on Guardio, locals and Patreon, plus more, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, question everything, and have a nice night.